Health Nuts, episode 40.
You're listening to Health Nuts with Dr. Chris Carr. Making lifestyle changes is hard for many people, and not knowing what to do or how to do it makes the task all the more daunting. Here at Health Nuts, we focus on helping you live a fuller life by discussing everyday health issues and exploring breakthrough solutions on how to overcome them. And now, here's your host, Dr. Chris Carr.
Welcome back to another episode of Health Nuts. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Carr, and to the audience out there, I'm so happy to finally have a natural dentist on the podcast, and his name is Dr. Mark Buzzatto. He is a DDS, CCWFN, NMD, IBDM, and is one of the leading holistic dentists in the Pittsburgh area. For the past 30 years, Dr. Mark has been formulating and refining his holistic and nutritional approach to dentistry. Most tooth decay and gum disease are the result of faulty diet, the inability to absorb nutrition from a quality diet, and or dysfunction of the endocrine glands. It is impossible to effectively treat a dental disease without considering the health of the entire body. He believes that the overall health begins in the mouth. With proper diet and nutrition regimens, there will be less need for dental care other than routine cleanings, thus creating a healthier mouth and body. Dr. Mark, that was a real formal intro of you. Welcome to the podcast, my friend. It's good to have you on.
Well, thank you so much. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to have a great conversation.
I love this medium. I've been doing this for about a year and a half, and it has a Pittsburgh feel to it because I get a lot of local docs in the Pittsburgh area, but we also interview docs from around the world, actually, so it's pretty cool. But to hear you're right down the street from me, so I'm looking forward to hearing your take on nutritional dentistry, which might be some new info to the layperson out there. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of this, after your last name, it's like alphabet soup. DDS, CCWFN. What's all that mean?
Well, the CCWFN is Certified Clinician in Whole Food Nutrition. I received that certification from the International Foundation for Nutrition and Health based in San Diego. It made sense to me that when I was looking for a certification that I'm a whole foodist. And I saw that I'm also, and I guess this is true of all of us holistic practitioners, we're looking for root cause. And dental disease, root cause is beyond the mouth. It's not the local environment in the mouth. As a matter of fact, let me just come out and say this. I'm a dentist who believes there's no such thing as dental disease. Tooth decay, dental caries, and periodontal disease are oral manifestations, if you will, of a systemic and most likely a mineral imbalance, a body chemical imbalance. I don't know why things show up in the mouth first, metabolically, but they do. So anyway, I digressed a little bit, and I have a certification as a naturopathic physician and an integrative biologic dental degree.
That's
all that alphabet soup means, Chris, is there's so much to know. There is so much to know, and it's never just one thing causing the problem, is it?
It's multi-factor in most instances, if not all. Cannot agree with you more. So it's interesting because I have so many questions just because I get bombarded with them, and I obviously am nowhere close to a natural dentist, but I answer them to the best of my ability with my toxicity background that I have. But I would love to kind of just jump right into this after. I just want to get one piece of information from you. I always like to start these off with a powerful affirmation, words of wisdom, a quote, maybe something that got you through your life and as successful as you are currently. What would you have to share with the audience?
You can't tell which way the train went by looking at the tracks.
Love it.
Tracks are there. Which way did it go? You got to dig. You got to ask. You got to ask.
Love it.
Yeah, it's it. We live in a world where we're born asking questions. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? They're honest, sincere questions. And the world pounds out our need to ask questions. Just don't ask that. Ask me later. So on and so on. I was determined, I don't know why, I was determined to cling to my cherubic, if you will, desire to ask questions. So when I was in dental school, I asked, are you sure the mercury in amalgams is safe? How can it be safe? It's a recognized neurotoxin. And I was not satisfied with the response. Well, it's been used for 150 years and no one gets sick and it's all bound up, and it makes sense.
So that is, since that was your segue, and I was going to get you on this question anyway, because I get it often. So I'm 40, soon to be 41. People all around, and you would know better when Mercury Fillings came about and then when the composite started to take over. What is the issue for somebody who has this? And for Mercury Fillings, I guess we can start from basics. What is it?
Well, mercury filling is called an amalgam because it's an amalgamation of metallic powders, of which include silver. There's some, in some of the formulas, there's some tin, there's some zinc, but 50% by weight is elemental mercury. And elemental mercury is that silver liquid that we may have seen in a science class over the years. It used to be in thermometers, heavily used in industry because mercury has an affinity to combine with everything. The problem is that most of the world has been eliminating mercury and substituting it for other things. It's being removed from well, it's a recognized neurotoxin. The conundrum is that there only seems to be two safe places on the planet to put mercury. One of them is in a person's tooth, and the other is in a vaccine as a preservative. Mm-hmm. And it defies logic, reason, and especially science that is in fact the case.
Yeah, because back in the day, especially and you hit the nail on the head with, they used to put them in thermometers, and if that thermometer would to break, say it was dropped in the hospital, they would have to shut down the floor, and so the proper cleanup would be you have to come out in the hazmat suit to clean it up.
Well, and in kind, if when I'm safely removing a mercury filling, mm-hmm. if any of it's dropped on the floor, I have to treat it as a hazardous waste. I am forbidden to throw that material in the garbage. So how could it be okay when minutes ago it was in a person's tooth?
And the two schools of thought that I've heard, because I've asked, my cousin he's an oral surgeon in Atlanta, and I've picked his brain on this. Half of the people say get the fillings out yesterday, and the other ones will say wait till each filling starts to break, then you replace it at that point and leave well enough alone. What's your viewpoint on that?
Well, God gave us immune systems to deal with the imperfections of this world, one of which is heavy metal toxicity, and mercury is a heavy metal. Now, how it affects us physiologically is the fillings are outgassing mercury vapor all the time. Mm-hmm. You could be eating an ice cream cone, and even at that temperature, mercury is outgassing. Not at a great rate, but it is. The friction expresses more mercury vapor. So when we're chewing on something and we have these mercury fillings, there's more mercury vapor. 80% of the mercury vapor is absorbed into the lungs. And as you know, when it's in the lungs, it can go anywhere via the blood transport system. It can go anywhere. And it's been seen even in the retinas of the eyes, which perhaps has the least amount of blood that gets to it. So we get a bioaccumulation. And that means if we have mercury fillings, and perhaps if we have only one, the outgassing and the absorption exceeds the body's daily ability to get rid of it. Our kidneys, colon, sweat glands, liver, and skin are all organs of elimination. And if we're not eliminating everything that's going in, it's going to bioaccumulate. So over decades, well, and the other thing is that mercury, if the body cannot manage all of the mercury, it will bury it deep in the body. Mm-hmm. It'll bury it in fat tissue. It'll bury it inside the cell until the body gets strong enough to be able to detoxify.
So to the lay person that's there and they're listening and they've got a mouthful, they've got 5, 6 or more fillings. What would be your game plan if they walked into your office? What would you advise them to do?
Well, it depends on what their goal is. If I could dichotomize the world, I have patients that come to me, they become aware of this issue, and they're not sick per se.
Right.
Or better said, the effect on their neurons by the mercury is subclinical. So they feel pretty good, and so they're having them. They're talking to me about removing them for preventive reasons to avoid the future neuropathy or however it presents itself. Then there's the other ones, Chris. They come in, they're sick. A fourth grader would tug at mommy's skirt and say, "What's wrong with that person?" Because they're pallid, they're stooped over. So the second group of people, they can't get the mercuries out fast enough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they want them all out. What's the risk factor on your end in removing them? Can there be, if you take it out and maybe the capsule breaks, or is there risk factors for the patient on that side of it?
Well, they're minimized when a safe removal protocol is followed. And I adopted the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology's safe removal protocol, which includes the patient breathing oxygen through a nasal cannula instead of the air in the room. I have a 5-stage air purifier with an extension tube. Looks like the nose of an elephant that goes right up next to the patient's mouth. And when you turn that on high, it sucks the mercury vapor away from the patient, so it doesn't permeate the office environment, and it never gets to the patient's lungs, which is most important. And then there's some other components of the protocol that are done when possible. There's a diminishing rate of return on each thing, but in toto, no one can say that it eliminates the exposure 100%. That it's 98, 99%. It's something that hasn't been measured, but it's incredibly protective of the patient.
If someone who has the multiple fillings, and would it be, say they had 6, for example, do you do it in a tiered process? Would it be 1 or 2 at a time, or would you knock all 6 of them out in one sitting?
We go at the pace that the patient wants to go.
Okay.
If there's, I typically, unless someone's driving, from Virginia or southern West Virginia, or they're flying in, and we kind of expedite things.
Gotcha. Because I think one of the reasons why they do that is that, you're probably in the 2% that maybe practice this way. Is that accurate?
Yes. It's a shame that this is, it's not only not encouraged, but it's frowned upon.
Yeah. So I'd imagine with that, and it's obviously, I'm a chiropractor, so I'm used to being the black sheep of the medical profession, but I kind of enjoy it. My dad always told me, do the opposite of what everybody else is doing, and you should be pretty successful in your life, because it's like never follow the herd. And I've always kind of taken that approach in various aspects of my life, and that's why I was so attracted to having you on. I do have a couple other generalized questions, because I could just spend another episode just on the Mercury Fillings, but I know the audience is going to want to hear some other info.
Okay.
Fluoride toothpaste, what should they do?
Find a toothpaste without fluoride. Fluoride is another neurotoxin. There are studies that show that there's diminished memory ability in children that are exposed to the fluoride. So it's just not a water problem. It's a fluoride problem. Mm-hmm. The fluoride, by the way, and perhaps you know this, but it's a waste product from the agricultural and what other the aluminum industry. And some smart capitalists figure out a way to get rid of waste by selling it to another manufacturer and include it in a product where someone saw value in it. But no study has proven that fluoride reduces tooth decay, although that's the mantra of the allopathic dental work, that it does.
Yeah, that's completely the model. And they'll give you, Crest spends a ton of money in their marketing, especially they've had different flavors with artificial sweeteners into the kids' toothpaste and some crazy stuff like that. So the fluoride, that answers that question. What about teeth whitening?
I don't have a problem with teeth whitening. Teeth, there are different varieties of bleaching teeth, but the secret to safe teeth whitening is to prepare the teeth ahead of time with natural products so that the nerve isn't as irritated as much as it would be. All the bleaching systems are peroxide based. So
if someone's ever gone through that, they'll know that the teeth become very sensitive. Those chemicals from the peroxide, they're safe for the body. You don't feel there's any issues with any of that stuff.
Well, this isn't a repeated episode kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, my money's on the guy that smokes one cigar in his life, and he's not going to get lung cancer.
Good point.
And there's the safest kind of bleaching is actually the guided bleaching in the office, or bleaching where there's trays that contain where the bleach goes. You don't want to get bleach on exposed roots of teeth. That's problematic. You don't want to get bleach on any soft tissue. That's problematic. It will burn the tissue. Mm-hmm. But teeth can be lightened because of how dentin and enamel is formed and how dense it is.
Mm-hmm. Next question, Listerine and Scope. What's the problem there?
Well, if I had to pick between the two, I'm opting for Listerine because it has essential oils in it. Okay, it's high alcohol. It's 25% alcohol. That's a problem for some people. Mm-hmm. But here's a great home mouthwash for your audience. Get their favorite essential oil. There is no best essential oil. So and probably a lot of your audience has heard about tea tree oil, which is indigenous to Australia, but you can get it anywhere now. Tea tree is not a flavor to this guy. So I'm not making my mouthwash out of tea tree oil. I'll pick one of the mints. I'll pick a citrus. You put a couple drops in purified water in a little Listerine container. Fill it up with purified water. Put in the essential oil. Voila. There's your natural mouthwash right there. That's simple.
That's simple.
That's simple.
Saves a hell of a lot of money too.
Sure you do. Yeah, essential oils applied to not just dentistry but the body. It's a wonderful product.
My father years ago had a heart attack, had to have open heart surgery. Before he went in for his procedure, and my patients have gone through the same thing. They went to the dentist. They wanted them to go get a dental checkup first. Why?
Well, because if you have to have a bacteria-free mouth, because that bacteria will wind up in the cardiovascular system. And the last things that a cardiac surgeon wants is, bacteria in his operatory field.
So that, I think the audience, what he's saying is that, so your health, the health of your mouth can affect your heart.
Oh yes. Well, we got so smart in healthcare that we figured out a way to split up the body, and that's not how the body works. I mean, it just isn't. There are studies that if you put a 1-inch heel lift in someone's left or right foot, it will displace their TMJ. And likewise, if the TMJ or the cranial bones are not balanced, the whole cervical spine is going to compensate for it. So, hence holism, the holistic approach, looking at the big picture, recognizing that this is intimately and absolutely connected to every other cell in the body. Which is one of the things that, if I could just expand on this real quick, Chris, which it's a thing I love about quantum mechanics and quantum physics. We're all connected. Even if we never meet, most of the rest of the 6 billion human beings on the planet now, we're connected. And there's nothing we can do about it other than support through wanting to help and wanting to give.
What are some foods you would recommend for someone to have great oral health? What are some foods they should be part of their diet, and other foods they need to completely eliminate?
Bone broth.
Love it.
Bone broth has the minerals the way God intended them to be balanced, so you don't have to deal with some human being's formulation of it. Okay. So assuming there's enough hydrochloric acid in the stomach, it's a liquid, so it's more readily absorbable. And by the way, bone broth, it needs to be prepared over low heat. Mm-hmm. Don't want to kill the vital forces.
Right.
You can get it from a place like Whole Foods, and it's organic. But it's not just the ingestion; it's the digestion and the absorption. It's got to get to the bloodstream, and once it's in the bloodstream, it'll get to the tissue. And then the template, the diet template that we advocate is what we call the fun food days. Sugar is a problem, and it's not just a problem for teeth. It'll show up first in the teeth before it'll show up in the bone or other places like arthritis. But sugar sucks the minerals out of our body, and so does stress. So we're burning through our minerals all the time, which is why bone broth, even if you have a pristine set of teeth, bone broth's a good idea. Bone broth's a good idea to maintain your spine, your joints, everything. But we don't get into abstinence and deprivation when it comes to fun foods. Okay, which is why we call them fun foods. Okay, and I'm not even going to get into organic. It's either a real food, okay, or it's not.
Right.
So if I had a twin, I have one Hershey's Kiss a day. My twin has a bag of Hershey's Kisses, 1 day a week. Everything else we do is healthy. Okay? It's what we dream of doing. It's what we want to do. And after several decades, I have more tooth decay than my twin. I have more degenerative disease. I'm more obese than my twin. I'm less energetic than my twin. And by the way, there were 700 Hershey's Kisses in the bag. So he's had 100 times the Hershey's Kisses that I've had. Why? Because I understand that metabolism works by the binary system. We're either triggering it on or triggering it off. Mm-hmm. I'm messing one Hershey's Kiss a day. I'm interfering with my metabolism and my body biochemistry every day. My twin, he went off the ranch 1 day a week, but he had 5.5 or 6 healing days. And so he winds up being healthier. We were raised with this notion, well, a little bit won't hurt. Well, a little bit won't hurt. Well, every day, a little bit hurts. And if I could just explain this one layer deeper. So my twin and I, where we have our Starship Enterprises, okay? My one Hershey's Kiss represents 1 degree off of my true north, which in this case is health. So as time goes on, early on, I'm not doing too bad, but as time goes on, I become more and more diverted away from health. Okay? My twin, he vectors way off, but then he comes back in. Vectors way off 7 days later, but then comes back in. Now, he's not going all the way back to true north because there is some effect to fun foods. But we have to satisfy our human condition, don't we? I'm just going to say, who are you to tell me I can never, ever, ever? So let's acknowledge that human condition and the need to be satisfied, the fact that we do have comfort foods. But for the long run, health-wise, that Fun Food Day framework, well, we teach that all the time because it makes so much sense to us.
It does, and I do the same thing. That micro exposure, someone who has maybe they drink one like those the little Cokes now to patients say, well, I just drink one of those a day instead of I used to drink a 2 liter. I'm like, well, you're doing better, but you're still exposing yourself every single day to phosphoric acid. Yes. And it's the same. I love that analogy, and I'm probably going to steal that one off of you as well.
Please do. Yeah, more people need to hear that.
Yeah, it's a great message. In closing, a couple other questions out, then I'll let you go. Maybe you have a patient out there. Maybe they're sick and suffering, and they've been sick for a long period of time. They've tried everything, and maybe it started with their mouth. Maybe they've had gum disease, and it's now led into maybe they're having cardiovascular issues. What would you tell that person who's kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they think there's no hope for them?
Start looking in different places. I see what you just described. I mean, don't we see that a lot? And when it comes to chronic degenerative disease, allopathic medicine, which I'm glad exists in this country for acute care. I've been the benefactor of acute care in this country, and thank you, Jesus. But degenerative diseases, there's no one is ever going to find any satisfaction there. You are going to wind up on the more times you go, you're going to increase to your pharmaceutical list that you're going to need to take, and you're going to have to deal with all the complex side effects and the interactions, which nobody has done any kind of safety studies. It's just the wrong pathway to go down.
Yeah, I love that look elsewhere. And I cannot agree with you more. The acute care, I always tell a patient, if your blood pressure is 300 over 150, don't come in here to get adjusted. You need to get that blood pressure down ASAP. If your blood pressure is 150 over 90, get your tail in here. Let's get 15 pounds off you. Let's work on changing your nutrition, your lifestyle. So I cannot agree with you more with that one as well. If somebody's trying to find you and they want to gather more information, you make so much sense to me, but it's because I'm in this field. I teach it and preach it every single day. But to the layperson out there, they haven't heard this information before. You're in the 2%, so they're not getting hit with this. How do they go about finding you, and why would they need to find you?
Well, the first place to go would be nutradentist.com, N-U-T-R-A dentist.com, and that's the website, and it has lots of information. My practice is on Library Road in Bethel Park, and yeah, I'm accepting patients. I love to help people. I see myself as a servant that have been blessed, having been on a pathway to learn certain modalities to help people get better, but also understanding that it's never just one discipline, that most people need multidisciplinary things. I mentioned to you the connection between the jaw being off and the spine compensation. I don't adjust the spine. So they both need to be addressed in concert.
Yeah, and I agree how it all plays a factor. Your phone number as well, because I have a pretty large local audience, especially even in South Hills. What's your phone number out there in Bethel?
412-831-9700.
And to the audience, I'll put his contact info in the show notes, so you can just click on the link there as well to find him. Dr. Mark, it has been awesome having you on. Thank you for not only educating me, but as well as my audience. I appreciate you coming on to share your message.
Well, Chris, it's been my pleasure. And, aside from your clinical work, what you're doing here, God bless you, brother. This is so powerful to spread the information. Information is powerful. And you have a lucky audience to have someone like you doing what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been a great medium. It's been a good experience. And I know pre-interview we talked about doing a second show, and I feel I definitely would like to have you on here down the road.
It would be my pleasure to dig deeper into any topic that you might you believe would help your audience.
Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to it. And to the audience, thanks again for being such loyal listeners. And I look forward to seeing you or having you watch us next week on next week's episode. Have a blessed week. Bye now.
So, you've heard from the experts yourself this episode and have gotten some golden nuggets on health. There is so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to pghcw.com. Again, that's pghcw.com, and sign up for our newsletter where you'll receive free info on how to get and stay healthy. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Health Nuts with Dr. Chris Carr. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and please leave a review.